Well, our new topic is the foundation of the Hungarian kingdom. This means mostly the reign of Stephen I. But as you see from this number of topics, we also have to speak about the period before him and how he consolidated power and what he actually did to, to found a state. Some little topic about foreign policy, really unimportant, I believe, but I just want to make it a whole. And of course, the question of succession. So Stephen I, as you see, these are the numbers you should remember. He was crowned to be king in 1000 or 1001. Both are acceptable. But before that, he was not a king. He was a prince. And he died in 1038. Let's go to the preparation part. So the preparation is, of course, his father. Hungary was a principality, and at that time there was only one prince. The leading prince was Géza, between 972 and 997. And of course, he started Western orientation because Hungarian kind of pagan lifestyle and pillaging, fighting all across Western Europe and Southern Europe ended because Hungarian tactics and military abilities were already known by the enemies, and Hungarians had been defeated several times. So the only possible way to survive in this Carpathian basin and in Europe, if we start Western orientation, and it was Prince Géza who recognized this. So he started to find allies. Of course, the ally was the greatest empire at that time, the German Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, and he went there to call missionaries and help. So Benedictine monks arrived in the country and they started spreading Christianity among the pagan Hungarians and the population of the Carpathian Basin. Here you should remember Pannonhalma, the monastery, the Benedictine monastery was founded in 996 and he also founded the first bishopric. So he laid down the basis of Hungarian Western Christianity. He also started dynastic connections with the German territories. So he invited wife to his son. She was Gisela of Bavaria, and she came from the Holy Roman Empire, and by this marriage they became allies. So the Hungarian Principality and the Holy Roman Empire became allies, and they got supports in spreading Christianity and, of course, strengthening the power. Of course, he had a son. He had to pass on the power to his son Wojk, who was Christian, baptized, use this. He became Stephen, and he got Christian education, and of course, he was said to be the next in line. So there was a problem, because primogeniture, the firstborn son, inheritance was the Western, the new type of inheritance, and in the Western countries, always the king's oldest son became the next king. But in the steppes, where Hungarians came from, the principality had an old tradition seniority, where the oldest male family member would be the next prince. And this is the rule which Géza broke, and of course Stephen broke. Well, Géza became the biggest landowner during his reign, collected lands and separated his enemies because he knew that after his death there would be a huge fight between Stephen and the rivals. So his own marriage was also serving this. He married the greatest landowner Gyula's, the Transylvanian Gyula's daughter Charlotte. So Géza's marriage also was a preparation of alliance and helping Stephen after his death. So everything was ready. Christianity was also already in. So what happened? Géza died in 997 and immediate fights started for the power. According to seniority, the oldest family member was Koppány, the oldest man, so he should be the next king. Stephen István, the primogeniture law, said as the firstborn son, he should be the following ruler. But Stephen had a lot of foreign help because of his Bavarian wife. Knights, Western fighters came from the west. And yes, Koppány was defeated. He was quartered as a sign that the king must be respected. The Duel of Transylvania, his grandfather also had to be defeated. This alliance didn't work. And Eutony, another great leader, also had to be defeated. So, as the fights went on, he became the greatest landowner. And of course, because of his owning most of the land in Hungary, this was the basis of his power. And of course, he was crowned. Pope Sylvester II, legend says he sent the crown. It is true that he sent the crown to Stephen. The legend says that it was Gabriel Archangel who appeared in a vision to the Pope, and he said to the Pope that he should give the crown to the Hungarians. Well, this was not the Holy Crown. Everybody knows that this object, the Holy Crown, is made after the death of Stephen, but this is not very important here. So he was crowned 25th of December 1000 or in 1001, January 1st, we don't know. Both are correct. He was crowned in Esztergom or Székesfehérvár. We don't know. Both cities were already important royal centers, but we don't know which. Hungary, by the coronation, became an independent kingdom. It was not a vassal country of the Western countries. It was an independent country. It was Western Christian, of course, spreading Christianity was still there. And it was a Western type of feudal kingdom, just like the kingdom of Charles the Great 200 years before. So everything is ready to start state founding. Well, state founding has two parts. First of all, let's make the administrative units, the county system, vármegyék. The king is the greatest landowner, so about 2/3 of the country was in his hands, but he created administrative units, the counties. Every county had a central fortress or a castle, and these territories were given to counts, where actually in Hungarian we call them bailiffs, azaz ispánok. So these bailiffs, or in Latin comes, they were the local leaders. They were responsible for the territory, so they produced goods, collected taxes, made jurisdiction, and defended everything. And in return, they have the wages. They could keep 1/3 of the income. So they were loyal people. So the administration was based on the loyalty of his people. A feudal state is formed. Charlemagne's pattern, Charles the Great's pattern, as I told you. Stephen had a traveling lifestyle, so he didn't have a real royal center because he had to practice his power everywhere in the country. He collected the income and he made local jurisdiction when he was there. So he traveled around the country with his retinue. But the king's decision was always the most important, and he was held by a royal council at that time. And of course we know that already in Stephen's time, the Palatine, Nádor Ispán, this office was already an important one. So this is royal administration. He also had to create church administration because Christianity became the basis of his power. Of course, the church counties were founded, 10 bishoprics, 2 archbishoprics, püspökségek, érsekségek, and there were the Benedictines, the monasteries, Pannonhalma, Pécsvár, Zalavár. Yes, so the monks spread Christianity. This was a missionary. And the pagan population had to be converted to Christianity. How he strengthened church? Well, he introduced the first tax in Hungary. This was the church tax, the tithe. You remember tized. 1/10 of your income must be given to God. Every 10 villages had to build churches, so the buildings, and it was the state, then the church, and even the people put together what they had. People had to go to church on Sundays. These are important laws of Stephen because he not only gave lands but also gave laws to strengthen the church. And people had to keep the land. So church organization was just like royal administration needed literacy, so this was the church people who could read and write. So we have state and church administration founded. Foreign policy of Stephen is not really important. You have to remember that he had to defend the country and he had peaceful foreign policy, but actually that's all. We don't really need this if we're talking about that, but here are the most important facts. You can follow that. I would like to focus on the question of succession because Stephen created something that had to be passed on, so that was not ready. Most of the society was still pagan, and a lot of leaders who were not loyal to him endangered the power, so he needed someone to pass his power on. And that was, of course, his son, Imre. He prepared him for the throne. He invited Saint Gerard Gellert as a tutor. He came from Venice, a really educated person. He became a bishop by him. And at the same time, he created a document, the admonitions to him. That was a kind of teaching in Telmag how to be a good leader. But that's the problem came when hunting accident happened in 1031 and Imre died. So he couldn't continue the reign of Stephen. So what happened? He started to annihilate, kill, or made the enemies impossible to rule, so all those who could become the next leader were put aside. Vasul, maybe he was pagan or Eastern Christian, he was the next to rule according to seniority, but he was blinded and even his children were driven away. Well, the legend says that he passed the throne to Virgin Mary, but it was not, of course, enough for a country. So finally, he found Peter Orseolo, son of one of his sisters. So he was a Western Christian person. He lived in Venice because he was the son of the Doge of Venice, and he was invited to Hungary. The problem with him would be that he was not a strong-handed ruler, but this is not part of our topic. So this is what you have to remember about St. Stephen and how the state was founded.